So we're going to be defining the contracts. We'll create a contracts directory where we'll define the block contracts and then implement the contracts here. And in this case, I already explained what a contract is. It is like a model for a class, right? So when we've defined the contract and we've implemented the contracts here, we can actually go ahead and test. So I think the other thing that I need to mention is that we'll kind of be writing the test simultaneously as we're building out the application, the classes, right? I would say maybe TDD, but not TDD. The concept of this tutorial is not to learn how to write test-driven development, but I'll try as much as possible to make it kind of TDD friendly for the purpose of also learning that along the way, right? So let's go and create contracts. So let's call it a new directory, contracts. And then in this contracts directory we would have the block contracts, just a PHP, not a class but an interface. Should be an interface name block contract, and the namespace should be practice. Let's just add the namespace here so we don't have to define it. Blog posts, okay, and then contracts. So this is what the namespace will look like. Remember how we got namespacing from PSR4? If you've forgotten that, go back to my second tutorial on the playlist. I'll link the playlist link in this video so that you refresh your mind on PSR4 as well. So we have the blog contract interface. This is called an interface. It's like an abstract class in PHP. So the first function in this contract is the add post function. So for a blog, you should be able to add posts, right? So we are creating the add post function, and we are passing an array parameter of post. So post params. So I'm just going to use this, adding that params, like it's just for the sake of learning. If it's in an actual project, you might just say post with an S or post, and then that's fine, whatever, right? And then it's going to still return an array. It's going to return an array of posts. And for the sake of keeping things clean, we should be adding the doc straight up. So this is going to add posts to the blog. So there is this, and there is another function called get posts. So this is meant to get all posts, right? If you take a look at this VB file, you should see add posts in the blog. This is the blog class, add post, get post, get post. So we're going to be, let's just put this out here. So get posts, and the get post should have an offset and a limit, just like we defined in the readme file. Offset and limit. So obviously this is an integer value, offset, and then an integer value of limit, and it should return an array of posts. Again, data structure for storing posts would be using array. I mentioned this earlier in the tutorial, and the reason for that is I don't want to go into using databases or using hash maps. I think hash maps could have been a lot easier, but PHP does not really have a native hash map function. I've said this earlier as well, so we're just going to be using array. So this is the function that will get all posts in the blog. Yeah, and the next function in this interface, in this class, would be get post. So this is meant to get a specific post, just one post. So if you want to view one post, you use this function, right? So get post, integer post ID, and then post array, right? And same thing, just for the sake of documenting out your functions, very important, especially when you're building contracts. You're just writing out for contracts, you can document it here and it's passed over to the actual concrete class. You don't have to like repeat this. Then this is get a single post in the blog. That is the function. That is the function of this function. That is what this function is supposed to do. So it's the function of the function. Does that make sense? So public function edit post. Edit post would have the post ID which you are editing, the post ID, which is the ID of the post you want to edit, and then the post param. So the new this is an array which is the new content of the post. So for instance, you want to change the post title and the post body, you can pass that in the post param, right? This, so yep, post param. And yep, okay, edit post. So I think that covers the 4 functions in our post class. So we can now go back to the blog class and start writing. But before then, I think we should just we should do this. We should create. So I talked about TDD. So let's try to make this TDD friendly. So try to write the test first. As to fail, so we obviously know what we're going to be writing as the test right here. So we know this is a single tool class, so we're going to be getting the instance, and so let's just do that real quick. For this, we have a PHP file. Let's call this blog test. Okay, blog test.php, and in this blog test would have the blog class. Obviously we would want to extending the blog class, and so we're using blog, okay, and then we're also using the other thing we would use is faker, all right, which is used to generate for the entire test, and maybe not for this specific add post test. So we're just going to be testing excuse me, so I have a little cold, so we're just going to be testing for this the first function here, the add post function here, right? This function here. So maybe we won't be needing the faker for this add post because it's one specific data model that we'll be using, but eventually. So let's just add the faker. Remember faker PHP? I think that was the last tutorial. I installed faker PHP. So use faker and factory. So this is the class. If you go back to faker PHP, if you just Google that, this is their yeah, so you can see how it works here. You can see how all this works. You can also make your stuff out of it. So, but yeah, we're going to be doing ours, right? So the first test we'll be writing, and before I proceed with writing this test, I have to, currently what we have is, if you run composer test, you have this example test that is passed. This is just this, really, but we don't need this anymore. And I also don't like this guy, this PHP unit results card. So I'm going to have to always delete it whenever I see it. It just came up again. So I'm deleting that as well. So we're going to be deleting example test because that is just an example code. We don't need it. Factor, save, delete. and then this as well. Refactor, say delete and delete. Yeah, the refactor. So I think we're looking great. So I think the other thing we need is the block contract, because we'll be instantiating the block class with the block contract, kind of like dissociating the both of them in a sense, for the sake of making things look clean and decoupling things, so it's like easier to understand and also extend in the future. So so we have this use block contract. Yep. Okay, so for now this is the three classes that are going to be needed for this test up to this point. So to write the test, you will have the test function. It takes the first parameter. You can see what came up, description. So it takes the first parameter, description, and then it adds post. This is the first parameter, and then there is a function. It takes the second parameter of a callback function, and then in this callback function, that is where you actually write your test. So obviously this test is going to fail because we've not written the actual code, and that is the point of TDD, right? So let's just practice TDD a little bit. Post param, okay, and we have an array, and we have the ID, the post. Let's call this one. That's the first post in the blog. That's the title of the post. So let's post title. We have the image. Let's say this would be part to post image. I have the body, post body, hi. This is a fun post. This is not a fun post. We have the author. The author, I will take credit for this post. So it is A. We have the heading. So when heading is 1, it means that the post is not published, and when heading is 0, it means that the post has been published. So do we publish this post or not? Let's publish it. 0. And then we have comments. So the comments will take an array of comments. So we're just going to leave this as empty for now. And blog, we have, so we're instantiating the blog class here. Remember what we did here. Remember, this is how we instantiated it, blog. So I'm just going to copy this for the sake of brevity. Yep, get instance, just like that. And then now we're writing the test. We say expect. I really like this testing framework. It's cool, like it's really, really cool, to be honest. So expect blog, which is this class, to be instance of what? To be instance of the blog contract. So we are testing that this blog is the instance of the blog contract. It represents the blog contract, or rather the blog contract is a model, is a complete model of the blog class. So what are we passing here? We're passing the blog contract class. Lovely. Then expect